Starting an Etsy print on demand business can feel really frustrating when you're putting all of this energy and time into this one thing and nothing is really moving. So in this video, I'll go over the 4 things that drastically improved my Etsy sales. Let's get into it. Now, the first part that I actually want to go into would be the Hormozi value equation. And the reason for that is that this just puts everything into frame to what needs to be done. Okay, so if we just take a look at the Hormozi value equation here, there are 4 things that actually equate to having sales. So think of value as people actually pressing purchase. The first things that I want to go over in this video would be the 2 things that we want to decrease, and then I'll go over these 2 later on. These 2 are actually the most important, so just make sure to stick by for those 2. Let's go over time delay first. This part right here is one that we want to reduce as much as possible. How to do that is to just make sure that you have accurate processing and shipping times. But there's a caveat to that. You also need to have a buffer for when things go wrong or things just take longer for a print provider to ship out the items. In doing my first Q4, I noticed that I had almost no sales. I tried to fill it with this, the dream outcome. I tried to fill it out with this, the perceived likelihood of achievement. I tried to do the same thing with the effort and sacrifice. I'll go into the specific of these later, but I tried all of these out first, but nothing really moved the needle for me. And then I actually changed my shipping times, and that actually made it click for me. During my first Q4, I followed some advice that I heard where I needed to prolong my shipping times for like an extra week or 2 to make sure that you have enough buffer if things go wrong. This actually drastically worsened my sales and nothing made it work. But when I changed that part to make sure that I had accurate shipping times, then it clicked. And now what I mean when I say accurate shipping times and accurate processing times is that I made sure that I just looked at my I think it was like 30 to 50 most recent sales. I looked at when they were made, like when their orders were made. I looked at the time that they actually got delivered, and then I just adjusted the shipping times and the processing times accordingly. I always want to make sure that I have longer processing times to make sure that I have the buffer, because that's still really important to have if things go wrong, so that they can still take some time for the item to actually get made by the print provider. But after that, I just made sure that the shipping times were as low as possible, but always accurate to what I actually was shipping at. So I just took a look at my my most recent 30 to 50 sales. I saw that, okay, I don't specifically remember how long it took, but I just took an average of what it took for them to get ordered until they got delivered, and I put that within my shipping times. I always made sure that my shipping times were a bit lower compared to my processing times, as processing can usually take longer in some cases where stuff can be delayed. The total amount that it took from someone to actually order the thing to getting it, I just made sure that that was accurate to what I was actually providing. And that fixed my sales issues during my first Q4. So the second part that we really want to go into would be the effort and sacrifice part. And I'm gonna simplify this as much as possible to not complicate it. In my opinion, this is all about just the pricing. There's 2 ways to see this. So I still say that you have to have a low price in the beginning so that the listing will actually get rank, so that they can just go into the first page, find your item, click it, and then check out. Now, apart from this, there's also other things that needs to be within the listing for them to actually click purchase. That needs to make it be seamless. Like the listing images have to be good quality. They need to be able to read it fast. They also need to be able to feel a sense of quality within the item, since they're not getting a physical representation of the item. They are only seeing the digital. So those need to be set. Those need to be just look professional, and they need to convey clearly what you're actually providing to the customer. The biggest thing would basically be the price. That needs to be lowered as much as possible, but it still needs to be seamless for them to actually get the item. In my opinion, it shouldn't be too low, because then usually people perceive low ticket items as low value, even though that they might be great value. To fix the effort and sacrifice part, what really fixed it for me was to listing it at a break-even point to make sure that it gets ranked. I've talked about that a lot on my channel. Just link that video right up here. And then once it hits the targets of about 10 to 15 sales or a 50% visibility score on Everbee, then I just raise it to profit pricing. But that fixed the effort and sacrifice part for me. There are more to this, but I'll just simplify it to make sure that the most important things get across, and that's having the listings price at a break-even point when you list it. Okay, so before we go into the next part, if this video gave you any type of value, please help me spread this video to as many people as possible that wants to learn about Etsy print on demand. You can do that by pressing the like button, hitting subscribe, and turning that bell's notification on. In return, I'll promise you to make as good content as I can about Etsy print on demand. Now let's continue. So the next part that we actually want to increase as much as possible would be this part: the perceived likelihood of achievement and the dream outcome. Now, when we start an Etsy print on demand business, none of us do have reviews. The biggest thing that actually affects this, in my opinion, is the reviews. If you have thousands of reviews, then it's really likely for someone to see that, okay, this shop has thousands of reviews, I'll probably get the item that I want, since so many people have gotten their item and given this specific shop 5-star reviews. But in the beginning, we don't have that. But there's a really great way that Hormozy also talks a lot about in his book, $100 Million Offers, and that's having a guarantee. So what a guarantee does is that it mitigates a lot of the risk away from the customer and puts it back on us, the seller. But that usually gives a higher conversion rate, since the customer knows that, okay, if something goes wrong, I can just get a refund or a replacement. So the guarantee should just entail that the customer can actually get a refund or a replacement if something happens. If something basically that's not promised within the listing happens. Let's say that it comes damaged. Let's say that they get the wrong item. Let's say that they're just anything that can cause an issue and be a hassle for a customer happens. If the guarantee is correct, then the customer should be able to get a refund or a replacement if something unusual or something unexpected happens. So the guarantee enables them to feel more secure with their purchase, and it just increases this part of the equation. And if we don't have any reviews, this is the best way, in my opinion, to actually raise this as much as possible. To just include a guarantee that just states that if something happens, they can just get a refund or a replacement. And I would also advise to just have some kind of time frame that they can do that within the guarantee itself, just to make sure that they don't contact you after like a year and say that something was wrong. So just make sure that you include a time frame, like within 14 days, within 7 days, within 30 days, within 90 days, that they can contact you and get this thing solved. The last part of this, and honestly the most important part of this equation, is the dream outcome. Now, with POD, the only thing that we actually really do is that we make designs, we put these on blank products, and then those products with our designs get shipped to the customer. If someone goes through search and they want a specific item and they really like your type of design, then there's a good chance that they will actually purchase it. But here's the thing, if we have a design that nobody actually really wants, then they won't click here in search, and none of these other variables actually matter, because all of these, if you really think about it, they mainly matter when they're inside of the listing and about to convert. But if they don't like the design itself, then you can't get the click, you just can't get the sale. So I'd say these 3 parts here, the perceived likelihood of achievement, the time delay, and then the effort and sacrifice, I see these parts as the ways to optimize a listing. But this is the main thing. What I would still focus the most thing on if I were new on Etsy and I weren't getting the sales that I wanted, was to focus on getting the designs. I've talked a lot about that previously as well, so just link that up here. But a good way to do that is to have a custom listing where customer can actually just customize the wording, because then you can just test out so many different designs without really being constrained by a niche. Because let's say that you, for instance, put a flamingo shirt up in the flamingo niche, then you're constrained by the design and the actual niche itself. Whereas if you just put up a custom listing, then the customer can put whatever they want on the listing, and you can really quite fast see if the listing itself is converting or not, since you're not really constrained by niche, since the customer can actually just put up whatever they want on the listing. So that's usually an easier way to get rolling on Etsy. But this part is really the main thing. Let's say that you have a design that's done about a total of 6 or 7 sales, and you have a total sales in your shop of 10 sales. Then I'd highly focus on this design and just spreading this to as many niches as possible. If most of your sales in your shop comes from one design, then I just try to spread that as much as possible. But the most important thing to always just find at the beginning is the actual design. Like in the beginning, since none of us have any sales and it's really hard to get sales, if you sold 3 or more of the same listing and the same type of design, I'd classify that as a best-selling design, since that's the main thing that actually sold in the beginning, since you don't have all the other infrastructure to actually make it easier to sell. Just knowing that the focus in the beginning should really be to just find a design that's actually selling. If it's selling 3 or more, then you have a best-selling design that you should definitely scale out to different niches and to just double down on, not focusing on other stuff, just taking that design, putting that into other niches to just scale the business. But if you don't have that, then this part is most likely the issue. You need to have the design set in order to scale the business. So if you're in that stage when you're not getting that many sales and you have done these 3 parts as well, fixing the shipping and processing times, fixing the pricing so that you're at a break-even point in the beginning, and then increasing the perceived likelihood of achievement by adding a guarantee, then it's most likely the design itself, and you need to find other type of best-selling elements, combine them in different types of ways, test those out until you actually have a design that's actually selling, if this is the case. But once you have a best-selling design, then you can optimize this part. And once you have that, then you can definitely scale your business. Once you have these 4 things within your shop, then you can drastically move the needle for your whole business, as these were actually the 4 things that moved the needle the most for me. If you want to learn more about print on demand, I suggest watching this video right here. And I take a look at every comment that I get, and if there's any videos that you want to see next, just drop a comment down below and I'll do my best to help out. I'll see you in the next one.